but in a world where there is such division, um, I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home was a good way of getting all of us to just sit and be unified for 2.5 hours. Welcome everybody to the Zach Like Jack channel. I'm Zachary, and we are here. That's it. It's happened. It's here. The wait is over for a lot of us. It's already past. The moment has passed, and now we're in the reflecting period. But Spider-Man No Way Home has come out. Now, as I sit and record this, I've only seen it once. I will be going again either tomorrow or the day after, about 2 days. Um, but it is very much that movie that's definitely it's deserving of repeat watching. I mean, there's no denying that. Now, this video here is going to be my non-spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you're looking for my spoiler thoughts on the film, I have a new podcast that is going to be debuting here on the channel starting tomorrow. And it is called INCREDIDROME. And the idea for my INCREDIDROME podcast, it essentially comes from my nerdy obsession with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from when I was a kid. And the Technodrome that comes from the Ninja Turtles universe. So it's basically a play on the Technodrome. The Incredidrome for me is essentially a representation of all of my nerdy thoughts about everything compact into one space, and that space is the Incredidrome podcast. So my first episode of the Incredidrome podcast will be here on the channel tomorrow, and that's going to be, my complete spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home, my deep thoughts about the movie, and whatever else I feel like discussing in that episode. But here right now, I'm just going to go over my general thoughts of the movie. So, with Spider-Man No Way Home, obviously there has been a lot building up to this film over time. Spider-Man No Way Home, I've seen a lot of reviews on it, and I saw it on Thursday. I saw it on premiere night. I went to the very first showing that was available at the theater near me. It was a 3 p.m. showing. It was packed. It was sold out. The theater was completely sold out, so much so that they continue to add new times. They were literally playing No Way Home probably every 10-15 minutes actually. So it was an experience. It really was an exciting experience. And before I really go into my thoughts about the film itself, the one thing that I really, really want to shed light on is the fact that the true achievement of this movie, with the filmmakers behind it, with all the actors behind it, with Marvel behind it, with Sony behind it, the true achievement of everybody involved in this movie was creating the theater experience that I had, and a lot of other people had, across the world, in sitting in that audience watching this movie happen. There are so many surprises in this movie, and the main takeaway is that sure, you can enjoy it sitting at home, cheering to yourself and stuff, getting all excited with your popcorns and things. But this movie, it reminded me of my experience with Endgame. Um, Infinity War was also a great audience interaction type of movie, but the air, the air that we all breathed together watching Endgame, and specifically all of the surprises that the third act of Endgame brought, that was a truly magical experience. That was a truly magical experience. And I'll never forget it. I will never forget the experience that I had watching Endgame. When Endgame was in theaters, I saw Endgame 5 times in theaters. Okay. I have seen Endgame 5 times. I know there's a lot of, other crazy nerds out there that have seen it. Like, you saw 5. That's bullshit. I saw it like 8, 9, 10, 11. And you know what? That's incredible. That is the power that that movie had, that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has created for us. It's created all the emotions that we have before, during, and after seeing these tentpole movies. And Spider-Man No Way Home is very much a tentpole movie. All right, obviously, again, I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory. I'm just gonna go over my brief thoughts about it. You jump right into Peter now having to deal with the fact that the entire world knows who he is. And in the entire world knowing who he is, that opens up the people that are around him in his orbit to also suffer the effects of that. And I think that they did a great job in showing the intensity of it, because that's the thing. Like, the thing about the entire movie has such an emotional intensity to it that I wasn't expecting. I don't think a lot of people were expecting. We're just kind of like, we're going, into seeing a superhero movie. And in leaving the theater, we're really just like, wow, that was kind of deep, and you really are thrust into the deepness of it just right from the beginning. Um, Again, the best word to describe the experience that Peter was having now, knowing that the entire world knows who he is, it was very intense. MJ, is being affected by everybody. Oh, that's Spider-Man's girlfriend. Yeah. Um, so it was interesting. It wasn't something that that we've ever experienced, in a Spider-Man story. I mean, we've had elements of people knowing that Peter Parker was Spider-Man in previous iterations of Spider-Man, but I really appreciated the level of intensity at which what it looks like for the entire world to know, like, to strip away the anonymity of the superhero and for the entire world to know who that person is and how they would react to it, especially when you're shown something that's like, oh, well, that cool, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like, he's actually a murderer. So, I mean, it was rather it was quite genius, I think, that they used Mysterio's death um to really set up the beginning of this movie. I thought it was pretty genius. I mean, honestly, I could have seen an entire movie if this whole movie had been about, like, seriously just that scenario of 2 hours of Peter, just dealing with how the world is reacting to him. I could have watched that. I literally could have watched 2 hours of that, but that's not what it is. That's a portion of it. The movie is honestly, in my opinion, so much more than I think any of us were really thinking it was going to be. Um, Obviously, you can't throw a rock far enough to get away from all the rumors that had been surrounding this movie. Like, oh, are Toby and Andrew in the movie? Is Daredevil in the movie? Is Mysterio even dead? Is he coming back? Who's orchestrating all this? Is Mysterio, like, secretly orchestrating all this? Like, he never really died, and yada yada yada, whatever. Like, having all of those questions really added to the excitement that I had for seeing this movie. Now, in just looking at the poster, you've got some incredible villains that have been in these films in the past, right? We've got Alfred Molina back as Doc Ock. Let me just say, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, it literally was like he has acted in no other movie after Spider-Man 2 and had just held on to that character, to that persona, to the conviction that Otto Octavius had. It's like he's held on to all that shit all of these years and just threw it all at us while watching this movie. Alfred Molina's performance in this movie to me was incredible. I know, other people may have differing opinions about it. My opinion is that I was wholly satisfied with the journey that Doc Ock, that Otto Octavius, and Alfred Molina took in this movie. From the very first time you see him, which we've all seen the scene in the trailer, which, Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock on, the freeway, and I was going to say something else, but no. Spoiler review coming tomorrow. um, anyway, whatever. Yeah, so I appreciated that journey. And also another thing that I feel like we all really should be super appreciative of is the fact that like Jamie Foxx as Electro really, really was able to redeem. And I don't want to say redeem himself, because at the end of the day, watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Jamie Foxx is not the reason why there are so many differing opinions about that movie. I believe it had nothing to do with Jamie Foxx's portrayal of that character. I think it was just weird that they went kind of like the Dr. Manhattan route, and then, the writing and how they kind of I just wasn't. I Let's put it this way. I didn't believe his change from, this dude who was shit on his entire life, uh and then all of a sudden, gets thrown in this, pool of electric eels, and then all of a sudden becomes this super villain, in a matter of hours or something. Like, I didn't believe the journey of Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But I will say, in No Way Home, I believed from the very first time that you see Electro to whatever happens at the end of the movie, I believed Electro's journey. In this movie, in this story, I believed the journey from beginning to end with Electro. And that, obviously, the kudos for that you give to Jamie Foxx partially, but I have to give it to the writers. I have to give it to Sony and Marvel for really allowing that character to just show a little bit more growth. I mean, obviously this is a movie that is packed with villains, right? So it's not solely about Electro. It's not solely about Doc Ock. It's not solely about Green Goblin. But there is such a great balancing act that happens with each of their stories that I really appreciated. By the moment the movie was over, I really appreciated that they allowed that breathing room to happen with these tempo characters. Now, before I get to Green Goblin, I want to talk about, the two, I don't even want to call them lesser, but in this story, the two lesser villains, I mean, again, this is not a spoiler, but you know, we've got the Lizard and we've got Sandman. They're two great villains. I really liked how they portrayed the Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man. Dr. Connors, he's an intense character. He's an intense and very interesting character. I feel like they didn't do the best that it could have been for that character in The Amazing Spider-Man, but in a movie where you're just ripping villains from another universe, I feel like, you know, the lizard that they portrayed in this movie, the Doc Connors and shit that they portrayed in this movie, um, it made sense. It made sense in the sense that that was the same character that was pulled from The Amazing Spider-Man. I'll just say that. And the same goes for Sandman. You've got Flint Marko, who was in Spider-Man 3, in Tobey's Spider-Man, who is not a bad guy. He was just somebody who just got wrapped up into some crazy shit, just trying to provide a better life for his family. I mean, at the end of the day, the one who you should feel, as a regular Joe Schmo, as a you and me, okay, the one who we probably should feel most sympathetic with, it would be Flint Marko. It would be Sandman. And out of the chaos that was Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, the Sandman storyline, I enjoyed. I enjoyed the journey of that character. And him in this movie, again, like the lizard, I don't like I appreciate the fact that it's very much the same character. Okay, we'll just, again, no spoilers, but the Sandman from Spider-Man 3 is very much the one that's ripped from the Spider-Man 3 universe. Okay. I'm trying to not spoil anything. I mean, I know the movie's come out already and yada, yada, whatever, but this, again, is the non-spoiler review. So I'm trying to work my way around a lot of it without, saying everything. But I'll just say all of these villains ripped from their prospective movies. But in my opinion, the two characters that just suffered in the writer's room, I guess, they just weren't given enough. They weren't given enough. Because I guess, I don't want to say because, but on the opposite side of that, we've already talked about how awesome I thought Doc Ock was, how awesome I thought Electro was. The other one, Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. Whew. Whew. You want to talk about chewing the scenery? Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is the epitome of an actor that appropriately chews the scenery in a movie. Willem Dafoe is literally top freaking notch in this movie. And one thing that I actually read the other day before I actually had saw the movie, so I went into the movie knowing this, and after I saw it, I was like super impressed. But I had read somewhere that the main stipulation that Willem Dafoe had in going into this movie was that he wanted to be able to do his own stunts. Like, he didn't want it to be, like this, crazed, CGI stunt double Mod Podge of things. Like, he very much wanted to be the one doing his own stunts. And I've got to say, man, when you see Goblin in a lot of these, these fight scenes and stuff, like, you're looking at Willem Dafoe. I mean, again, not to get into specifics, obviously get, more into specifics in the podcast tomorrow, but Willem Dafoe did such an incredible job. And if I were to rank, who would be at the top of the villains in this movie, I mean, Green Goblin he stole the movie. Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin stole this movie, and in the best way possible. And the fact that, I mean, what the Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out what, like 20 years ago? You're talking about a character that came out 20 years ago and we haven't seen since, to now 20 years later in a totally different movie come and still like capture the shine and own it. That speaks to Willem Dafoe. That speaks to how incredible Willem Dafoe is. Um, and that's really all I can say about it without, giving spoilers. But I really appreciated the journey that uh Norman Osborn took in this movie. Really appreciated the journey that Electro took in this movie. Mr. Max. I forgot his last name. Forgive me. The nerds are screaming at me right now. I forgot Max's last name. Sorry. And the journey that Otto Octavius took. All three of them, they had a real successful journey for me in this film. Again, Lizard and Sandman, they're great in the movie. That's the thing. Like, don't take my saying that, they're a little low tier in the movie. Don't take that as a negative, even though it sounds kind of bitchy. But they're still great. All the villains in this movie are great. The fact that, I mean, I remember seeing a lot of things online where a lot of people were complaining about how packed this movie was. There's so many people. Oh, this movie's gonna be horrible. There's just like so many fucking people. Ugh. Listen, in a world that we've experienced Infinity War, an Endgame, like take away, the OG Avengers, take away Age of Ultron, take away Civil War. Infinity War and Endgame proved that it doesn't matter how many big people you have in, like, big characters that you have in a movie. It doesn't matter. That's hogwash. It's bullshit. It doesn't matter if everyone is used properly. And I feel that in this movie, everyone who is involved, every character that is involved in the story of this movie is used properly. And I say that loosely with, Lizard and Sandman. I still feel like they were used in the way that I guess they could have been used. Because when you watch the movie, it's like the motivations kind of make sense. Even as I say that, I'm like, I'm stuck on Sandman. I'm stuck on Sandman. I believed Lizard more than I believed fucking Sandman. Let's just put it that way. No spoilers, but Sandman's journey now I'm totally negating everything I said. The more that I sit and I talk and I think, I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe I'm not so satisfied with, how they did Sandman. But taking that away, this is a very emotionally, spiritually, and monetarily, apparently, successful movie. I had a great time watching this movie, and I look forward to seeing it again. I went by myself actually to see it on Thursday because I've got, I've got family out of town and stuff. Like my family's getting married in Texas and stuff. So um the people that I would have went to go see the movie with weren't around, and I had to, stay behind and take care of my little fur child, my little nerdy little dog, who's appropriately named Anakin because he both has a light side and a dark side. If you have animals, you understand. But in closing, Spider-Man No Way Home was a delight. It was a movie theater treat. I again want to thank everybody involved in making this movie and creating the communal theater experience that I had and that millions of other people had across the world. Because it was a completely unifying experience in a world where we're all kind of, living in, like, there are different variants of disease that are happening. You know, I want to. I'm skipping around. You know what I want to say. But in a world where there is such division, I feel like Spider-Man: No Way Home was a good way of getting all of us to just sit and be unified for 2.5 hours. And I thank you all for that. But yeah, that is going to be my non-spoiler review of Spider-Man: No Way Home today. Now, again, I've got my spoiler talk coming tomorrow on the INCREDIDROME podcast here on the Zach Like Jack channel. So if you'd like to know my full in-depth thoughts on what I witnessed, what we all witnessed in this movie over this weekend, you can check that out on the channel tomorrow. And with that, everyone, what did you think of my non-spoiler review about saying things without really saying them? Let me know what you thought down below. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed my brief little chat of saying things without saying anything. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that post notification bell if you would like to see all this madness in the moment as it comes to you on your little screen right there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a non-spoiler review, okay? I look forward to spoiling the shit out of this tomorrow. All right, with that, y'all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. And remember, Chubina Tonight! Later.
He needs some milk.